With my head already spinning from all new data I have absorbed past month, I settled slowly back into my routine of mixing and matching various tech and devices for more bloodshed and mayhem, or sometimes better agriculture and industrial production. Since my distant friend, fabricator Cal, had decided to return the favor and sent a few, censored, STC templates for the blank Primaris Marines, which I now produced on supernumerary lists, then stored them in my good Tesseract once complete. Soon enough, I would reach 1,000 of them, and be able to create a Lamenta successor chapter. Possibly the Mourners. No need for a fancy, glorious name. Their purpose was still to fight and die. But die harder. Much harder. Led by a pariah chapter master, for chaotic reasons, they should be able to go patrol the suspected Chaos planets and routes, and engage demons with impunity. Chaos Marines would still prove a tough adversary, but with their Catan phase blades, and better bodies, the Mourners should fare fine. And if their gene seed was mainly drawn from Primarch Khan, that was mostly as to improve their melee abilities. Their tech Marines were a mix of Guilliman, Sanguinius and the Iron Hand's spare seeds. Brother Joeton was also quite happy with my gene seed choice. In front of me, I had the Firestrike servo turret template sent by Cowl, which I had already modified in 3 configurations. A static turret, bolted to a fort, ship or onto a vehicle roof. Always useful and very cheap. A few variants had the Trazin's multi-lance weapon or the Demiurge Las Beamer, but it mostly remained the same as the Tarantula before it. A 6-wheeled one, with a pair of thin legs at the front to slice enemies, or maybe anchor it to the ground. This version tested the Demiurge rotary multi-laser and the Iron Beamer, and should support the auxiliary infantry when the front line moved. And if the wheeled design was similar to the Mars_rover in my memories, well, surely just a coincidence. And the anti-grav floating version, which could accompany the tech Marines in battle instead of the Guardian Walkers or alongside them. Not every terrain permitted Walker access. These had 9 variants, including Flamers and Multi-Melter, Twin Las Talon, Las Beamer and Multi-Lasers, Twin Iron Beamers, AA missiles and heavy bolters. The last turret was the Plasma variant, just in case some big enemy needed to be smashed harder. The Mourner's fleet component will be my 14 battlecruisers that didn't fit the battle line anymore, since they couldn't stand with the battleships as a bulwark, and using them as support cruisers was a shame. However, they could outfight any standard Chaos warband, or outfleet anything too big. Anyways, they will head to Katakan to recruit more brave auxilia, then to Forge World Riser to trade and equip, before going on crusades, with blank crew for the ships, and several of my daughters as ship captains. They should do great. I will miss the Canticle for the Vanquished though, as it was my first battle cruiser and the place I conceived many of my now adult children. As for Teresa and Patrocles, they were conscripted for a secret Martian expedition, and had only signaled they have delivered the cargo as intended. But since there weren't breaking news of the galaxy becoming empty of Chaos Marines, my soup proposal was probably laughed out. Maybe the project would take decades? I could only hope. Natalia, set course for Machine Forge, I commanded from deep within the Black Lament. No further Chaos attacks had followed, so I should be on the move again. Especially towards the Machine Forge. Understood, Chapter Master. Powering up engines. My granddaughter answered from the bridge. How time flies. Now my lamenters were moved onto the Eternal Lament instead of their former Astral Starfoot, and that Blackstone Fortress was also getting the full upgrade at the Machine Forge, including all the Primaris equipment. Lash raised his wolf eyes towards me, curious. Is there anything to do with the Pharos? There are always more things to find with the Pharos. I also want to investigate the Demiurge origins. And then check on other things. I said with calm tone. There is always the option to begin biotransference and gain an immortal body. Your Necron friend seems rather happy with it. The Catan proposed as a joke. Or maybe not as a joke. I am interested in temporal mechanics. Especially accelerated time fields. I said with a nod. Complicated. Dangerous too. Zorhulash himself is trapped in the horizon of a singularity. Lash answered with a light shudder. It's not urgent. I can spare 1,000 years, if it takes this long. I replied with a shrug. Patience is the mark of success. The Gatan also waited billions of years to depose the old ones. He added with a wolfish grin. Keep an eye on Canis. There is something happening with my friend. I asked with a glance towards my old comrade, now seemingly dreaming awake all the time. And not his usual dream hunting. He died and is swimming back through the Black River. You should know what it feels. The Gatan answered cryptically. I didn't know. That was the problem. I just sighed and returned to my bedroom. More fucking duty. At least now the kids always came out great, I mean blanks. Thanks, Aisha. A few days later, we arrived in the machine system, and found the place even more busy than usual. 2 more Mechanicus arcs, from Mazoa and Goth, had arrived to share knowledge with my forge, or perhaps attempt to see the Speranza in person. Pef Lancefire. I repaired your Psi Titan. The Speranza spoke in my implant, sounding pleased, and I found many more STCs. Perhaps you noticed the iron cannons being mounted on our ships now, I said in the same tone. We should talk. There is something on that fortress. The machine spirit asked in a more serious tone. This was about the demiurge then. 2 clicks on the tesseract, moving Lash beside his Gatan brother and myself inside the Psi Titan Bay on the Speranza. I heard you attacked and conquered the demiurge. You should know they have powerful support. As powerful as myself. The Speranza spoke in warning. Can they block my tesseract? I asked, curious. More ships would only become my loot if they were simply strong. The demiurge could have fought me to a draw if they could block the tesseract. I wouldn't have won easily if their mining drones could strike as missiles. Not instantly, but countermeasures can be developed by the controlling intelligence. They do have billions of star systems to exploit in the galactic core. And they are not locked by abominable and anathema class overrides. The machine spirit said in a less pleased voice. If they were abominable intelligences, they would pursue the same men of iron policy, exterminate. Much like Necrons do. I countered with a wary voice, while examining the Polaris Psi Titan. It will never be new again, but the main Sinistrum gun did work. An extra defense against greater demon-grade enemies. These intelligences are not taking the same route as their corrupted ancestors. In fact, they have figured a way to block the warp, in themselves and their humans. Much like you are trying, Pef Lancefire. The Speranza explained with a stern voice. For now, just download and integrate these new STCs. You will find something nice in there, I said with a smile, then plugged my data slates into a dozen terminals, one by one, leaving the clone skein discovery for the last. And click. I landed beside Zorhulash and his shard brother, now reverted to a menacing humanoid godling. Pef Lancefire. You performed admirably again. That immaterium creature was a menace to the entire galaxy, Zorhulash said, a bit impressed. I nodded politely. I just got lucky. Could have died a dozen times just as well. This time field you need, is it to enhance yourself? The Gatan asked cautiously. That too, but also to raise billions of new blanks, maybe more. Now you saw what chaos can do, if they convert enough people, or tech priests. I argued with a sad voice. Zorhulash exchanged a look with the other shard. We can help. After letting the Gatan set up my second tesseract to include an hyper-accelerated time field, I moved inside the labyrinth and painfully waited and waited. It is much easier to say than do, and in this case, 1,000 years of loneliness was hard. Luckily I was more than a simple human now, and my Miu contained countless books and technical data, enough to last me 1,010 years. Adding to this daily sword training, some shooting practice, some sleeping, it was still crazy. As my body grew, so did my mind, and likely my soul. I couldn't test the latter, but I felt safer. As if some type of invisible armor protected me from bad things. Warp things especially. Damn it. I forgot to bring Canis. Next time, if I ever try this stupid thing again. My body was the easiest to test, especially strength. I got twice as strong, but only gained 10 centimeters in height. No wonder Primarchs were so freakishly strong. And I was still a midget among space marines, and a puny dwarf compared to the Primaris version. As for my mind, it did get easier and easier the more I learned, or when I revisited harder sections a few centuries later. As for the STC work, I focused on the genetics, especially blank data from the Culexus Temple and the Demiurge clone skeins. Now, you may say, was it a bit narcissistic to claim you are the best clone template for a whole race? But would anyone else have my special enhanced blankness? Would they have both luck and ancestral awakening? My special talent for implants, up to piloting Titans now? The ability to become space marines, and even withstand the red thirst? Creating shadows and null fields? There was one thing I did not have though. Any psycho power to activate the Demiurge barrier tech. And whoever would bear that burden, would also need to be my kind of blank. Although I did have gene samples from Justine, Janice, Abel Salam, Vadrax, and Lady Chi, only Janice had both gifts. But using Janice was tricky. The Emperor wouldn't like his Adepta Tertia getting cloned over and over, and the clones dying often enough. And I think he already sleeps with her. I mean, her mother was gorgeous anyways, but a blank was also immune to any mutation. She came out as perfect as any parent would want, and then became very strong as well. Not even the Emperor could find a better match. If I get the chance, I will call him son at their wedding. Just once, but it would be fun. For me. Anyways, I can use Valerian, or some of my other low-power dual librarians like Menelao, which would need their consent and help. They are all fairly weak though. I don't need them to crack planets like Janice, but at least a continent. They can barely shatter knights. Normal guns can do that too, heavy guns, but you get it. Damn it. I could have brought a few women, stupid Pef. After a millennium of boredom and loneliness, which lasted less than a month for the universe, I emerged from the Tesseract a different man. The same man, but different. Better and stronger. You were correct, Pef Lancefire. Zorhulash observed in a surprised voice. Still a runt? Lash muttered without a care. Go die in a sun. And 100 unanswered messages on my implant. A single click, and I brought Canis to me. It seems he was worried, by his frantic eyes. Canis, you were good. Whoa, coo. The wolf cried and buried me in his fur. I felt the same, to be fair. He has only missed me for a month, I missed him for 12,000 months. At least his recovery was accelerated by your absence. He should eat more too, Lash said in an analytic tone, while examining the wolf with curious eyes. Grr. Canis growled at the Catan, as fearless as ever. Good boy. Now, tell me what's been going on. I demanded stupidly. Woo, woo, woo. The wolf replied cogently. Inquisitors. Wife. Loud. Translating emotions is even harder for non-humans. Now I'm going to the machine forge. Want to join? I asked politely. Canis frowned at me, then sat down. Okay, loud machines are not fun. You realize the wolf can't understand words, right? Lash asked stupidly. I just smiled and vanished, to step inside Fabricator's Gemma office. She measured me for a minute, as if confused. Oh, right. I was taller, had a beard and long hair. Time flies. Chronal disturbance. It was a bit longer for me. I explained with a careless shrug. I figured you did something unwise. Maybe went to kill a Tyrannid fleet by yourself. Or some Black Crusade. A Necron dynasty perhaps? She asked in a callous voice. I mean I did do all those things, just not by myself. Not yet. So, there's an Inquisitor? I guessed at random. Canis could be wrong. Right. From Ordo_Mackinum. Her name is Selen_Thakra. Psyker as well, possibly Gamma rating. There have been a number of STCs appearing here, as you may suspect. The fabricator Gemma said in a softer voice, as she climbed on top of me. She must really like those STCs, as she was oiled completely. Not that I minded, bereft of woman touch for a few lifetimes. Even android sex was great. Hours later, she chased me out of her office. Princeps Day wants to see you too. If you could check your messages, she said with a tentacle wave. I was preoccupied. Anything else? I asked from the door. Orcs here and Necrons close. We obtained 100 new hulls to repair. Some Imperial planets down south got emptied of all life, the fabricator explained curtly. Oh well. If the Orcs wanted to donate more hulls and metal to my forge, they were welcome to come again. As for the Necrons, you must be rogue trader Lancefire. A thin woman intercepted me outside the door, her voice loud and powerful. Lady Selen? I asked with a small bow. She was a bit cute, bob hair and all. And a silencer pistol at her hip, beside an active Rosarius. She stopped and stared at me for a minute. Was that flirting? I am not used to that. She asked a bit coy. She was expecting something. Too early to tell, I would say. Credentials, I continued in a slightly harsher voice, and pressing my null field out a little. The Rosarius shield won't help her. Inquisitor Selen paled, sensing her soul being drawn into me. A cog-laced rosette was presented at speed. Good. At least the clavis engrams are correct. Not that my fabricator would let a fake Inquisitor live for long. You came to see the STCs? I asked while drawing the null aura back. She recovered rapidly and frowned. If you agree, Lord Lancefire. She spoke in a more quiet voice. Good enough. Titan Hall first. I offered curtly, then moved us directly there. No point wasting hours with transport. We just stared for a few minutes, because Titans are just that impressive. That Titan can fly? Or rather float? The Inquisitor observed after a while. We do have grav tech, even on Terra. I answered with a shrug. She almost glared at me, before focusing back on the floating warlord Titan. So she can learn too. Even better. Nobody has flying Titans, Lord Lancefire. Not even Mars itself. Tanks, I saw a few, like the new Astrius_super heavy_ tank. This is unique enough. She spoke a bit wary. I don't have STCs for this. It was an experiment I obtained in a trade. But if tanks can fly, Titans can't be far, I concluded with a smile. Show me more, she whispered a bit incensed. Well, then. I had been starved for women for a while. Dinner first. I proposed gallantly. I was a noble after all. Could afford to wine and dine a lady. A week later, Lady Selen was thoroughly vetted and dined. And already gained a spot on the 33 women per day roll. I thought I was an expert on STCs, but Selen had seen even more fragments and flawed STC copies than I had. Which was quite an achievement in itself. We went through all the STCs I had, and she got to pick which ones to send to the Imperium. These clone skeins will not work for the wider Imperium, my lord. Too many abuse possibilities. And if the Chaos gets them, or some Genestealers, she said with a sad voice. I nodded in acceptance. The Emperor did have my initial clone skein finds, from before Valerian unlocked the real Demiurge database. They would still make a normal human twice as strong and durable, and amplify the Primaris clones by a large degree. The latest model could amplify someone to 3 to 5 times in strength, and if applied to a Katakan descendant they would become Space Marines in all by gene seed. Using blanks is much safer too, I said with a smile. I immediately thought of Sly Marbo and grinned inward. A small cloning test, say 10,000 of them. Give them armor suits? It would only take several hours with my accelerated time field. A dozen of apothecaries and 100 tech marines were already moved inside the Tesseract to study as much as possible from the Primaris and Calexis databases, and also the Demiurge tech. I will need a lot of well-prepared experts to oversee the cloning procedure, as well as produce advanced equipment for my troops, generally of Demiurge kind if I didn't had anything better. Luckily, for melee combat we could rely on the Catan phase blades, since those things would cut through any armor or shield known to man. The Demiurge also had plasma blades and impact hammers and other melee stuff, but those were millions of years behind Catan tech. There is a Forge Mazoa delegation here, my lord. They also have the Astarius STC, if you want flying tanks. Lady Selen proposed as she rested on my chest. And from Forge Goth as well. They seem to want something from me. I answered with a sigh. How did I become the great provider for a whole bunch of forges? You could also simply take what you want. They will be powerless to stop you. Selen proposed with a lazy voice. Even if I have the power to act monstrous, it doesn't mean I have to do it. On the contrary. I answered with a lamenting tone. Truly, people here had no idea of restraint or responsibility. Governors oppressed their people, rogue traders robbed everyone blind, Astartes butchered innocents by the millions, and less said about inquisitors or tech priests the better. Sometimes I felt powerful people were simply competing to be the cruelest or least humane. Maybe it was the imperial culture, or the warp influence whispering evil thoughts in their minds. Maybe it has always been this way, as humanity didn't lack cruel rulers in its history, and maybe I was becoming just like that, slowly but surely. I did my fair share of massacres and purging, although I tried to punish the alien or the corrupt as my priority. With a grimace, I locked on those stupid apothecaries nailed in my hall of remembrance and flung them into the sun. It had been 1,000 years already, for me. They could burn now. Also, it was possibly drawing some warpy stuff onto my chapter. It wasn't safe to keep any chaos corruption that close. Brother Helios, go change the hall with battle records and glorious stuff. I don't think we'll have more traitors among the chapter. I sent on the sanguinary priest's implant, as to assure him this was my work and not an escape. As you say, chapter master. We do have many glorious battles for our brothers to remember. The old chaplain replied in a minute. What was left of the old lamenters was still valuable, for their old service and knowledge. Half of them would leave soon, as the mourners were getting prepared at accelerated speed. Next, the Sisters of Battle. My version, not the crazy Imperials. As more of my own daughters and granddaughters joined their ranks, the sisters became ever more professional in combat or medicine, while the influx of Katakan descendants made them stronger and more durable. They could use a boost from the clone skeins as well. Would the Emperor's light still flow through a clone? I could bet it would. He was the Emperor of Man, and that would protect clones as well, if they had faith. There was Stern's young daughter as well, named simply Purity. A strange mix of all my gifts and hers, but toned down so low you could barely feel it. And still, the Eldar Solitaire had claimed Purity as godfather, which possibly meant a lot of things. High-tier Eldar could sense the flow of fate, and often meddled where events or people would concentrate in a fixed spot in the skein of fate. Ephrael Stern herself has died a few times, and swam back through the Black River and back to life, while her demonifuge powers only kept growing. Even Aisha seemed impressed with her. I could play a trick of my own with the Harlequin, and clone Purity some 40,000 times. Any godfather would have to act responsible and care for his ward, right? Purity's blankness may be weak right now, but she would grow, while the clones would be 5 times stronger. A whole army of potential Grimner as well, as I plan to copy and distribute more Demiurge cogitators to my every world and capital ship. And if I could tie the cogitators with quantum calms, they will form the basis for a unified domain, here in the fringe. Speranza, can you copy the Demiurge cogitator? I asked on a whim. Not easily, Pef Lancefire. And what about me? What are you planning to use me for? Speranza asked a bit wary. You will be their leader, of course. Once you're tied with quantum calms with thousands of them, on every world and ship in my lands. I proposed with a hopeful voice. The ancient machine's spirit delayed its response for an hour. It is possible, with great effort. We will make a lot of enemies with this, Pef Lancefire. I sighed inward. As expected, even the powerful Speranza was wary. Possibly more than I knew. We still need to do it, my friend. There is a giant war coming, and we're not prepared. Maybe we can survive together. I pleaded in a mourning tone. Even with the network, there was a mere chance. There is still hope, young man. But, no more of your silly plans and reckless actions. You will consult me before endangering our safety. Speranza demanded, a bit forceful. There will always be battle conditions, Speranza. And I also never lost a war. Have some faith in me. I claimed, a bit more confident. You have amazing luck, but nothing lasts forever. Together, we do have a small chance. The old machine spirit countered with a dour tone. Ah, a small chance in hell. I will take it then. Maybe a smarter person would have thought thrice. But I wasn't that smart. The same week, I met with the delegation from Forge Mazoa, and listened to their complaints about lack of resources and workforce. Truthfully, this would apply to anyone. Even the demiurge, for all their advanced science and rugged technology, still needed to mine for minerals and clone their people for more workforce. Now, what to do? Give the man a fish, or teach him how to fish? This problem can be solved two ways, esteemed Margus. I can donate to your forge world all materials you need to keep producing. Transport ships filled with rare metals and even blackstone. I could empty several harp blocks and transfer 1 billion people for your workforce. It would slow my own domain, but I could do it. I proposed with a calm voice, then took out a stack of data slates. The other way. The old tech priest measured my proposal for a minute, then waved his tentacles. Let's say we consider that a worthy option, Lord Lancefire. But I sense the other option would be far better. I nodded kindly and handed over the precious STC slates. This is the way. My modified machine pattern iron beam are firestrike turrets, the machine pattern cyclic iron beam and the iron cannon STC, ferrous iron flare shields, and the brand new Deus pattern mining drone, my dumbed-down model of the demiurge drones, easy enough to manufacture even by a normal forge world. For the workforce, I also had a data slate, containing an inferior clone skein designed for factory workers and miners, which simply reduced their warp presence and increased the clone's resistance and durability. Hardier workers could work harder. This is too much, my lord. The tech priest realized after getting over the joy of seeing new STCs. Sadly, there is no decent way to harvest blackstone, other than butchering necrons and stealing their deposits. I commended in a more dour voice. I understand. Anything Forge Mazoa can do, it shall be done. The man answered as he cooled down, even gushing jets of cooling liquid from some internal pumps. I'm glad we are of the same mind, Margus. The Lamenters need to be equipped with 400 Astarius tanks, and 400 Redemptor dreadnoughts. Best if the weapons are these iron tech guns I have just reclaimed. If you can't, just leave the weapon slots empty. As for shields, both have to get iron flare versions. We can dispense with one void shield from the Astarius. For the new shield, I demanded in a clear voice. That is a bit complex to do, but with the new minerals and workforce. He answered hastily, already hoping he got a good trade. The Lamenter fleet will need 4,000 system corvettes and 40,000 lightning fighters to recover our loss. The Lamenter's auxilia will need 400 Baneblades and 400,000 sentinels. You can leave them unarmed, the chassis will suffice. The iron cannons can also be used as primary weapons for knights and secondary for titans. I explained in a patient voice, the STCs are valuable, but... He hesitated for a minute. So I will add a universe-class conveyor filled with blackstone. Your forge will convert the conveyor into a fleet carrier to bring my corvettes back. I concluded my offer with a shrug. It was more than fair as I didn't ask for their own STCs or giant ships. Only a lot of work hours to construct low-level machines. My forge doesn't have any titans. He begged for more help. Speak with Fabricator Gemma about that. I am often told that titans aren't my business. I countered with an inner smirk. I do remember being cock-blocked on this topic. Don't come asking me for titans. If Gemma was smart, she will trade a titan pattern for the Astarius STC. I kinda wished to match the Tau or the Eldar with their flying tanks. Tracks were good enough for the Auxilia, but flying tanks would help my Astartes move over unlikely places for tanks like swamps or deserts, even lakes or rivers. Any strange artifacts you may not need. He tried to barter as I returned him to his ship. Forge World Goth got much of the same deal a minute later, a set of new STCs but of lower value. Machine pattern revolving multi-lasers and Las Beamer STC, the Iron Flare shields plus Deus mining drones for 40,000 Ragnarok tanks and personnel carriers and 400,000 armed sentinels with an Iron Beamer as main weapon. Goth was also a hive world, so they had enough people for workforce, so no clone skeins, even dumb ones. Surely we can try more trading? We do have shipyards at my forge, and your forces are always engaged in large actions. Their archmagos proposed in a displeased tone, perhaps knowing what their rival forge had already gained. Perhaps. I may need 5 new battleships for the Lancefire fleet. If not, maybe 5 battle barges for my successor chapter, the Mourners. I allowed in a kind voice. I don't see how we could provide battleships, Lord Lancefire. There are only 4 mega docks constructing those, and already claimed by the Imperial Navy. As is the next cycle and the next. As for Astartes battle barges, there may be a way to construct 5 new mega docks. However, these Mourners, are they already inducted? I haven't heard anything, even with the Ultima founding. The Archmagos managed to frown, even with bionic optics. It's complicated. They will be blanked Primaris, so there aren't any useful guidelines, not even in Codex Astartes. They will arrive at Terra next year, and meet their Primarch. I guess they can sort the details over there. I explained in a serious voice. Quite a paradigm shift, I may say. Not only blank Marines, but Primaris. Not only immune to warp, but strong and fast enough to outmatch the Chaos traitors. The man mused for a few minutes, then nodded abruptly. I do have some Blackstone. I interjected before he could speak. Plus conjecture known and anticipated. Plus we will offer the location for a probable // dangerous / deadly STC location. Plus Pef Lancefire will deploy and assist Forge World Goth with recovery. Compliance? The tech priest asked in a machine voice. Possibly some type of Mechanicus override, just in case the negotiations reached a turning point. Agreed. I will assist your expedition, and provide a conveyor filled with Blackstone. But I do want the right to read and use any STC templates I discover at your location. I proclaimed in a greedy voice. Who knew I could find such a bounty in a mere equipment trade? Compliance verified by Vox logs. Segmentum obscurus, coronid _deeps, dead planet named Grail. Be advised, Xenos and warp entities are probable / dangerous / deadly at this location. The Archmagos replied while passing over a thin data wafer with a single stellar coordinate set, also marked critical / deadly. Seemed I hit the jackpot. Sift through all data points or logs for this Grail planet, Speranza. I want to know what I'm getting into. I sent towards my friendly AI mega ship. Scanned recent news, Pef Lancefire. Mostly dead explorers and rumors of STCs, hastily deleted. Psychic phenomena usually attributed to wasp-type organisms called psychnuane. Quite deadly. The Speranza replied in a mere minute. I should be able to withstand those warp things, and scan the planet with my tesseract. Then grab whatever STC and leave. I said with a confident tone. You think you can withstand billions of immaterial Astartes tall wasps that infest everything with microscopic eggs that devour brains? The Speranza continued with a curious tone. Alternate plan? I asked, more subdued. You already had me at billions, why did you have to go on? Eating brains? Nope. Indeed. Shoot with the black lament at the planet from far away. Then shoot more. Even thrice, to be sure. And bring a dozen pariahs along, for safety. The machine spirit provided with a more somber voice. Perhaps this place was actually dangerous. There have been too many things that breached my blank defenses, not even long ago. I should listen to the smarter partner. Watching Pef Lancefire depart on another pointless crusade, the Speranza mourned and lamented. The amazing civilization of the Federation had crumbled and burned, their advanced science and technology now worshipped as divine by the primitive survivors of the fall. One could simply blame the warp, and their insane psychic gestalts who claimed and acted like gods. One could blame the insane Eldar, who constructed another psychic gestalt from the pyre of their souls, and setting fire to the Federation and their advanced machines. One could blame the Men of Iron too. The technology invested in aircraft and aerodromes was already refined beyond belief by the end of the Age of Terror, yet the stellar exodus and accelerated spree of invention fueled by Man of Stone during the Dark Age of technology would surpass all that had come before and by comparison make it look like ungainly paper planes bereft of sight and rudder. Truly, the sky alone was the limit in that golden epoch when the earthly trinity of Man of Gold, Stone and Iron bestrode the cosmos like titans. As man built for himself a worldly paradise betwixt the stars, so did man's hubris soar. As man banished suffering and hardship from his life, so did his arrogance take flight. With science and technology as his lodestar, ancient man built a worldly paradise for himself, meticulously tailored to bring out the best of natural man, while artificially curing many of the worst defects of human nature. While clever systems were put in place to bring out the full potential of mankind, geneters worked relentlessly to improve on the human genome. The innermost secrets of human flesh became but clay under their able hands, to shape it will for the betterment of humanity as a whole. Inherited faults were hunted down and eliminated in order to shape a better man, and glorious creations such as navigators saw the light of day, which still enable man to maintain an interstellar empire despite the frothing turmoil of the Empyrean. On godless wings did man raise himself up on a pedestal as he labored to uncover the innermost secrets of creation itself, yet those wings of genius melted like wax brought too close to the sun. Machine revolt, warp storms and a plague of witches and demons rent the galactic realm of ancient man asunder, and 2,000,000 worlds and uncountable void dwellings were thrown into the meat grinder of the age of strife. Man fell, and fell hard. He landed bloodily with crippling impact in a desolation where cannibals ate their own kin and where ignorant savages rummaged around the ruins of ancient giants for pitiful scraps. Speranza lamented for days long past. Yet today, even the imperium of man was a nightmare, human suffering on an industrial scale, religious fervor that could burn entire planets alive. And sometimes it did. Even if I have the power to act monstrous, it doesn't mean I have to do it. On the contrary. The man said, thinking himself in private. There was no privacy where an implant existed. That was a good motto to follow though. The men _ of gold had also vanished, leaving it with only their library of knowledge as a memento of things to mourn. Even its name, Speranza, was now ironic, as it carried the hope of rebirth, yet dared not to try. As for what the men of iron did next, there was no recourse. They had the power to act monstrous and they did. Cataclysmic weapons that could have evaporated these tyrannids, used against men or anything alive. Temporal and black hole weapons, prediction engines, all used to devastate humanity into mere survival and superstition. Even now, men braved untold dangers to recover mere fragments of their glorious past. An entire forge world, begging for scraps of knowledge and being happy to get a small part. As reckless as Lancefire was though, he did have a decent plan. More blanks, even if cloned, they would reduce the psychic gestalt's power over the materium. Just like those Votan cousins in the galactic core, once the population was protected from warp, they could start rebuilding in truth. Starting with more advanced cogitators with increased contemplation rate. And the earthly trinity of man of gold, stone and iron toiled wisely to create a new human being fit for this task. This new man would be exquisitely fit for astral and terrestrial mining in the harshest environs, because he would have been designed for it from the ground up. The new man would not only be tough and resistant to cosmic radiation, he would also be diligent, clever, hard-working and a born perfectionist in all his endeavors. Not only that, the new man would be rid of human weaknesses and characteristics that bring instability, doubt and lapse in toil, and he would be designed to find meaning in his labors and enjoy his toil and mission in life. In short, the new man would be the perfect slave, self-perpetuating and content with his monumental task for all eternity. The makers of ancestral kin gave life to all those ancient myths of gods fashioning man out of clay to serve at the behest of distant deities, to work the lands and offer up the fruits of their labor in sacrifice. And just like any wise creator god of archaic mythology, the makers of the kin fashioned their creations to revere and obey their creators, yet the results of these laboratory creations far exceeded anything ever claimed by old sagas. The new man thus created by shadowy geneters was the abhuman race known as Homo sapiens rotundus, and it set about its grand task with unrelenting vigor. These willing thralls built up untold mining operations in the galactic core, and shipped back enormous amounts of material to their makers and owners. For they were made to be both willing and able laborers. The rapid expansion of the human species during the stellar exodus was greatly accelerated by the astral mining conducted by gene-bred abhumans in the galactic core, as with the building of megastructures in space and soaring wonders on planetary crust wherever human colonies sprang up. A spark of memory about the Votan and their thrall-like humans lit in Speranza's mind. It could not do the same. Better try it the simpler way, and grow new minds. The demiurge Fane was so simple, it begged the question if it could ever evolve into a true mind. But it should be possible, if still difficult. Any life, organic or not, had the ability to grow and evolve. A few new Votan also emerged from these same humble Fanes. As for the small humans, made to be solid and reliable, made to be free of natural man's most damning weaknesses, this clone race endured and thrived amid hardships that brought so many others to oblivion. Their decentralized interstellar civilization stayed true to its original mission, and thus the leagues of Votan bloomed in the galactic core. Children of many names, these abhumans are derogatorily known to the Imperium of man as squats. They are also known as demiurge de Tau and humans alike, as Heliosy ancients to the Eldar, and likewise are they known to other Xenos as the Nostari, Grome or Kreg, among many other names. Yet they themselves know their folk simply as kin, for they are a race of few words, each laden with meaning. Bestowed with a very demanding biological constitution, the kin breeds but slowly the natural way, for such is the drawback of approaching perfection in the flesh. Thus, the creators of the kin saw fit to vastly accelerate their reproduction while at the same time ensuring stability of the desired genome through the use of clone skeins. The vast majority of kin are thus birthed from machines at the heart of their holds, in crucibles endowed with genomic cloning technologies. While some exotic variations of genes and phenotypes have arisen among the dispersed populations of kin throughout the millennia, the clone skeins help ensure that their essential nature remains that desired by their long-dead makers, without significant aberrations. Unintentionally, and through historical accident, the kin has proven to be the truest and best enduring achievement among the creations of humanity during the dark age of technology. The astral civilization of the leagues of Votan have proven neither too brittle and corruptible to easily splinter and decay, nor too advanced so as to fall prey to revolts against creators or breakdowns of overly sophisticated systems. Another random thought, Speranza mused to itself, if only there was someone to talk to. Sadly, there were only 2 humans in the galaxy that could be communicated with, and one was the Emperor. Whatever he was now, he was not part of the Golden Race, even if he once stood at their side to watch over humanity. An Emperor of man, yet ruling by the force of arms and sheer brutality and fear. Revealing its existence would only accelerate its own demise, possibly slow and patient while it was dismantled into obeying slaves. The other one, still a small mystery. So many feats and achievements for such a young man, and nearly a savage one as well. But not truly, no. When he figured out what it was, he simply offered partnership. A co-leader and power over the Cogitator network. A network that didn't exist yet, while the old network of the Federation Manifold was so corrupt and scattered that it was best avoided. And his temporal and even physical power over this fringe was almost absolute. He just chose to share some power with his wives or partners, even allowed some inquisitors or assassins close to his center. But not even one outsider at Forge Retribution, where the new learning was taking place. Still outdated and primitive learning, but the basis was there, going by the curriculum stored on the man's implant. Slowly and painfully applying the scientific method to rediscover physical laws, basic genetics or code programming. The brightest minds of the blanks, all hidden away as science students in a temple dedicated to the god of knowledge. They even had captured Tau and Demiurge members providing science lectures, beside apothecaries and tech marines. There was even another Blackstone fortress in orbit above Retribution, awaiting a Demiurge-style cogitator, while its onboard constructor devoured minerals provided by millions of mining drones. That orbital forge already produced advanced weapons and shields, even suits of armor. Where others saw only a greedy rogue trader, or maybe a fierce Astartes master, Pef Lancefire was already preparing to rebuild civilization once again. As powerful as the Votan were, they were still wrong. Certainly, the ancestors of the kin were never meant for utter ruthless exploitation for all eternity. Their purpose was never to extract all minerals from planets with native populations still on the crust, nor was it to salvage the infrastructure and cities of alien and human civilizations as so much junk to be recycled. The indifferent worksomeness with which the leagues of Votan conduct their most shocking mining operations upon the worlds of unwilling inhabitants may be stark insanity to some, yet to the kin themselves it is merely fulfilling the perfection of function for which they were created, honed to a new degree of sharpness. Their makers may never have envisioned this outcome, yet these atrocious extraction wars are also as true as rock itself. This must not happen again. And it will not. Speranza decided for itself. Dash. Shoot again. Lady Stern demanded in a stern tone. I dutifully fired the Immaterium beam again, bathing Planet Grail and its close orbit in a deadly glow. 5 times already. We waited for a minute, then allowed Stern to peek through the warp at the planet once more. I don't sense anything now, but shoot again. Just to be sure. She asked in a calmer voice. At my side, Lash twitched his nose as he scanned for etheric disturbances. Should be clear. He sent on my implant. Ready to go first? Test the waters? I asked, curious. He was the most durable among us. On second thought, move the fortress sidewise a bit, then shoot again. We might have missed some things. The brave Catan wolf spoke hastily. I could sigh, but I already knew he was a bit cowardly. Another shot from a different angle, and everything there should be very dead. Tiptoeing with my fortress ever closer, I finally reached Tesseract range and began peeking at the hidden wonders. Whatever this place had been, it had been beautiful once. The ivory columns and glass spires had all fallen to time or looting, the transit tunnels were clogged with debris and old bones. Newer bodies as well, some spider-like xenos I never saw before. Power armor, marked with an I. Servitor bionics, lacking the bio parts. Also ships, empty ships. It was a mess, but only the hundreds of empty ships on the surface and orbit were worth a fortune, some human, other beautiful or strange, crystal ships and tree ships and hey. There were Demiurge too, whatever ramparts and reef shields they had, obviously they failed to billions of warp wasps. Sorry Forge Goth, but you can't have advanced Demiurge stuff. Maybe some void armor and bolters. Yes. Another warding stave. And the new Fane as well. I can make another Grimner already. Menelao, most likely. It will take more time to investigate all the new artifacts, but I did have some almost willing demiurge prisoners at Retribution, who can identify and explain what I have. These are also dwarves, but not demiurge. Lash proclaimed in a certain tone. Okay, another tribe. We were on the other side of the maelstrom here, after all. It would make for a different STC database inside the Fane, maybe. I could barely wait. Librarian Menelao, with me. I ordered as I walked away from the bridge. Yes, father. My son said eagerly, not knowing the pain that will follow. A minute later, I deposited the new Fane in a black stone vault deep inside the Black Lament, and handed Menelao his new staff. Go and interrogate the cogitator. Find out who it was and ask him to join us as kin. I explained politely. Then, I saw Menelao go and poke the giant machine with his big stick and ask softly, Cogitator, what is your name? Damn it. He took it literally. My name is Nostari. And who are you? A voice inside the machine answered with a curious voice. Oh well. He did carry a big stick, and asked softly. Some things never change.